Terence Crawford better than Floyd Mayweather, especially coming off of the performance he had with Errol Spence Jr.? Okay? It's a fair question, especially off of that performance. Let me first, though, preface this. I probably shared this before with you guys. It's from the book of Mark, chapter, I believe it's 11. I want to read this once again. Okay. No. It's Mark chapter 10. Sorry, my bad. I believe Mark chapter 10. Is it 10? No. I'm mixing it up. Can't remember what chapter it was. Oh, that's so bad. Okay, fine. Oh man, I so want to cover this. So let me get to the scripture, and then we're gonna go into this. Hold on a second. Let me just get the scripture here. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? All right, hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. All right, here we are. I got it. So Mark chapter 9, verse 35 says, they had been arguing about which of them is the greatest. And he sat down, called the 12 disciples over to him, and he said, anyone who wants to be first must be last place and must be the servant of everyone else. Let me say it again. Everyone who wants to be first must be last place and be servant of everyone else. That is what, who is the greatest? All right, let's get into this question. And that scripture actually will guide us. You will see what I mean. So first of all, is Terence Crawford better than Floyd Mayweather? That's a very, very broad statement. And in some respects, he's accomplished more than Floyd Mayweather. In some respects, he has a way to go. And to be fair, this question should be asked after Terence Crawford's career is over. This is not a question we can ask now. But I do understand people asking the question based on the performance that Terence Crawford had against a pound-for-pound fighter in Errol Spence Jr., who was dominant in the division of welterweight and was the #1 welterweight in the world. Just off of that performance, to become undisputed, that name, I mean, all the other names that Terence Crawford has in his resume are cool, but Terence has never fought a pound-for-pound fighter and never beaten a pound-for-pound fighter. And so this particular win is significant. And this is not just any pound-for-pound fighter. This is a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Errol Spence was considered one of the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. So this is a significant win that Terence Crawford has under his belt. Not only has he made history by becoming 2-time undisputed and becoming undisputed welterweight and being the first welterweight to become undisputed in the 4-belt era and so much more, but he's also beaten a name in boxing, which was is a serious name in boxing, a popular name in boxing, and also a great fighter, an undefeated fighter at that. And he's made history in so many different ways, as is Errol Spence. They have made history in so many different ways. It's not funny. So, yeah, a lot of firsts. So what we're going to talk about here is that's a significant win on Terence Crawford's resume. Now, Floyd Mayweather has had many significant wins against many pound-for-pound fighters. So to be able to really talk about, when you talk about Mayweather, you're talking about quite a lot of records being broken and quite a lot of things he's done. Terence Crawford has fought so far, I believe it's 11 world champions, former, present, future, right? I think it's 11 or 10 now. 10 or 11, I can't remember. But Floyd Mayweather's fought 24, right? Or 22, one of them, 22, 23, 24, I can't remember which one. So anyway, I think he's had 24 championship fights. He's fought 22 world champions. So let's put all of that aside, because like I said, Terence Crawford's career is not over yet. Yes, he's 36 years of age, but his career is not over. It's coming to a close, but it's not over. So let's really try to put this in context. Terence Crawford in terms of his accomplishments, in terms of undisputed, is better than Floyd Mayweather, because Floyd Mayweather has never been undisputed, right? Floyd Mayweather has never been undisputed, and Terence Crawford is the only fighter in the four belt era to be undisputed twice in two different divisions. Now, back in the day, being undisputed, more fighters were undisputed more regularly, but there were less belts. All right. The last undisputed welterweight champion was Zab Judah, and he was undisputed until I believe it was 2006, early 2006, when Carlos Baldomir beat him. The undisputed champion before him was Corey Spinks. Okay. Corey Spinks collected all the belts and become undisputed. He was a southpaw himself. And interestingly enough, Zab Judah also was a southpaw. And they fought each other. And the first fight, Corey Spinks won it. And the second fight, Zab Judah stopped Corey Spinks. And they weren't, though, two undefeated southpaws. This has never happened in the history of boxing. Two undefeated southpaws facing each other has never happened in the sport of boxing. I'm going to disappear for a minute. Bear with me. I'm sorry to break this coverage just like that. But we got a lot of things to do. But I just want to try and get this stream out of the way as quickly as possible. But I'm going to have to do something right now. And then I'll come back to the stream. It won't take me too long. It'll take me maybe a minute, 2 minutes. So you guys are going to have to excuse me. This is uncut. This is live. All right. I'm doing some other things while I'm streaming. So, all right. So there, in that regard, in terms of undisputed, Terence Crawford is better than Floyd Mayweather. But that's a title, sort of like. In boxing, it's all about who you beat, how you beat them, okay? So when you look at the conditions under which it happened, when you look at Crawford versus Spence, that is the greatest win of Crawford's career, okay? Now, when you look at Floyd Mayweather, you can pick him. You know, you got all the great fighters of his era he has faced. So you have Miguel Cotto, you have Shane Mosley, you have Manny Pacquiao, you have Oscar De La Hoya, you have Juan Manuel Marquez, you have Zab Judah, you have DeMarcus Chuck Crowley. Well, okay, let's leave DeMarcus Crowley out of there. In fact, Floyd Mayweather has beaten 12 Hall of Fame fighters or future Hall of Fame fighters, right? Terence Crawford, this is probably his second or third Hall of Fame fighter. He may have second or third. So that's why I'm saying, when you look at accomplishments overall, Floyd Mayweather has accomplished way more than Terence Crawford has accomplished. All right? Now, when you look at the manner in which Terence Crawford has beaten fighters of recent times, he's been stopping everybody. Okay? Floyd Mayweather would outbox you at welterweight. He'd outbox you, right? Stay behind his defense, outbox you. But stop you, he hasn't been stopping anybody. In fact, of recent times in this era, nobody's been really stopping anyone like that. Terence Crawford's been stopping people. His intent is to hurt. His intent when he goes in there is to finish you if you are off your P's and Q's. So there's that difference. That makes Terence a little bit more exciting fighter than Floyd Mayweather, because you know a KO could happen. So in that regard, I think Terence Crawford is better than Floyd Mayweather in terms of getting and securing KOs and finishing fights, not having fights go to the scorecard. Of course, it takes a whole lot more skill to go 12 rounds with a fighter than just stopping them. So Floyd did it the hard way, shall we say. Terence made sure he had an early night as much as he could. Now, having said that, in terms of the eye test, when you look at Terence Crawford's performances, the thing about it is Terence shows that when he needs to, he has defense. When he needs to, he has, tremendous arsenal of offense. He's a smart fighter. He can fight from either stance equally well. and he will fight as appropriate for the situation. Floyd was much more economical, much more precise, a much more calculated fighter than Terence Crawford, and I guess Floyd could teach him a couple of nuances. But to say that that these two gentlemen who have roundabout a similar sort of approach to boxing, similar sort of schooling, but at the same time, Terence Crawford has a much more knockouts than Floyd Mayweather. I would say that when you look at them and you compare them, I'm pretty sure Crawford would have a few more things in his game because he's learned things from Floyd Mayweather. You could tell he studied Floyd, he studied all the greats, the past greats, and so he's adding little tools to his arsenal, and he's becoming a fighter that's, as they say, a complete fighter, but also with being able to stop fighters and stuff like that. So Terence Crawford, is he better than Floyd? Well, we can't fully say that yet. We can't say. We still have to watch his career, see what kind of opponents he faced, see how the challenges, how he solves his challenges and stuff. It's still a little too early to say he's better than Floyd in terms of the eye test. Even though when you look at him in the eye test, he seems to check all those check marks that you're looking for in one of those great fighters. But still, his competition and the consistency of high-level competition and the consistency of him producing these kinds of wow factors, because against Errol Spence, no one thought that he would just blow out Errol Spence like that, and he did. And for him to face other top-level fighters, maybe a Costa Tszyu, and see if he could do that same thing to Costa Tszyu, or maybe not blow away Costa Tszyu, but outbox him, to see if he could get Undisputed from Jamel Charlo, to see if he could challenge some of the 154-pounders, and maybe even one of the 160-pounders, go up to 160 and see what he could do there. Because Floyd is a 5-divisional world champion. Terence is currently a 3-divisional world champion. Floyd's fought the who's who of his era. There are 1 or 2 fighters he didn't get to face. He didn't have the opportunity to face, but basically all the top fighters of his era, all the top 5 fighters of his era he has faced. And Terence Crawford, at welterweight, he's now been able to fight the top fighter of his era, and 1 more top 5 fighter, I believe it was Sean Porter. Terence Crawford's still, trying to get to that level where he's fighting top level competition all the time. At welterweight, he wasn't able to really do that until the Errol Spence fight, until the Sean Porter fight. Hopefully at 154, he'll get those opportunities now that he's a pay-per-view draw. He's going to be a pay-per-view draw from here on in. And he's going to have a second fight with Errol Spence, and that'll solidify it for sure. Crawford's one of those guys you just don't pick against. So that's what makes him separate from everybody else, and that's what makes him like Floyd. The work ethic, the craft, the way how these guys apply themselves, the desire to win. I believe this is what separates Crawford from everybody else. And him and Floyd, you can see the similarities there. I would say this: it's still too early in Crawford's career for me to say categorically he's better than Floyd. His performance against Errol Spence, which was, I believe, a better fighter than Diego Corrales, Olympic pedigree and all of that. Floyd's big, undefeated fighter win was really against Diego Corrales, who was a force to reckon with even after he lost to Floyd. Similar circumstances, Diego Corrales was having problems making the weight, and he was complaining about that, and Floyd wouldn't allow them to have a catch weight fight. And so as a result of that, Diego Corrales kind of came in a little slower, a little more drained, and so he was dropped 5 times. Pretty much similar conditions to what happened with Eric Morales and Pacquiao, Miguel Cotto and Pacquiao, and now Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. But what I would say is, even if fully hydrated, even if these guys were able to take the punching power of Floyd or Pacquiao or even Terence Crawford, I can tell you right now, just based on the style and the boxing and the IQ, these guys would have pulled it off with probably another dominant performance. And Errol Spence will get that opportunity, fully hydrated, to run it back again with Terence. And I do believe Terence is still going to outbox him, outplay him. I don't know if he'll stop him because once he's properly hydrated, maybe he can take a punch much better. So, but the spectacular performances that we've seen with these guys, Pacquiao, Floyd, all point to the fact of, these spectacular performances. Sometimes the other opponent comes in not 100%, and so there's a big discrepancy. And that's why at the highest level, you got to come in 100, well, not 100%, but you know what I mean, at the top of your game. You can't come in compromised in any way. It'll show. But what can I say about Terence Crawford? The jury's still out on Terence Crawford because, of course, his career is not over. We have to wait till his career is over. But I will say that Terence Crawford, in certain aspects and areas, has accomplished more than what Floyd Mayweather has accomplished. This is what I would say. But in other areas, Floyd Mayweather has completely accomplished way more than Terence Crawford, and we have to wait till Terence Crawford's career is over to speak about that. Now, with respect to 50-0 and 40-0 and all that, I don't care about that. It's not the numbers, it's who you face. So whether Terence Crawford makes 60-0, 50-0, 30-0, 45-0, I'm not going to be looking at those numbers. I'm going to be looking at who did Terence Crawford face in his career, and who did Floyd Mayweather face in his career, and how did they perform against those guys, and what was the conditions under which they performed against those guys. I think that's the more important question to ask yourself, or to be asking anyone for that matter, regarding these fighters, okay? So, you can look at the eye test, you can look at their most spectacular performances, you can look at the level of opposition they faced, the consistency of the high-level opposition they faced. You can look at whether he loses or wins, who is it that he's losing and winning against, and what did he do? Did he jump up 2 weight classes, for example, or did he jump up 1 weight class? Was he fighting for a 3rd undisputed title? All the stakes involved also create the atmosphere, which creates the situation where you can say, okay, this guy he fought this great fighter, or he fought that great fighter. He knows this guy's going in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That guy's going to the Boxing Hall of Fame. Or just the style. This guy's very difficult, or this guy is just so strong. These kinds of questions you have to bring up. And of course, by watching the fights, you can know for yourself. And then you can see the skill sets. And Crawford displayed so much beautiful variety, a virtuoso performance against Errol Spence, that you have to put him up there now. He is in the sphere of a Pacquiao, Mayweather. Even though he's accomplished less than them, he is in that sphere now. He's in that space. He's one of those exceptional ones. He's separated from everybody else. Now you have to ask yourself, he has separated himself from everybody else by this performance. Now, of course, boxing's a thing you have to perform time and time again. King, people saying for now, we'll see. Of course, we have the little Naoya Inoue down in the lower weight classes who's been doing his thing as well. We also have Alexander Usyk, who could become a 2-time world champion if Tyson Fury would grow the balls to face him. And then you got, other guys out there like Jermell Charlo, who could become 2-time undisputed as well, jumping up 2 weight classes and beating Canelo, which is a fight that I think that Jermell Charlo can very well win. Canelo is a beatable fighter right now. And also on top of that, I know Canelo has a lot of power. Canelo will be working his power. He better be working on his footwork and his foot cardio, because he's going to have to fight the fight of his life against Mel Charlo, because Mel's coming. Mel's going to be ready. And Mel has the skills and the virtuosity to pull this off. And a lot of people are really they're underestimating Mel, just as they underestimate Errol. Unfortunately for Errol, it was a whitewash. The people who predicted that Crawford would knock him out and stuff like that, they were right on this occasion. But I want to see if that will happen again, if Crawford could do that kind of performance against Errol the second time. I don't know. We'll see. But what I would say to you is that Crawford is an extremely special fighter. This performance, I tell you, Errol Spence is no joke. Errol Spence is not no chump. People say Errol don't have defense and stuff. Actually, Errol has defense. I will speak about that as well. I know I'm going 20 minutes in. I'm going to try and cut it short. I see 4 people in the chat. Don't forget, you can chat with me. You can talk with me. I'm not going to buff you or anything like that. You can talk. You can say your piece on this. Whether Crawford's better than Floyd Mayweather, how you feel about it. It's your opinion. It's all about opinion sometimes. But really, right now, we can't really say because Terence Crawford is still, his career is not over. The jury's out on him. But what I can say for you guys is this is the Terence Crawford era. Terence Crawford has now ascended. It took him a while to get to this point. But from here on in, he's going to be a pay-per-view star. I think they said it's 650K pay-per-view buys. That's very, very good. You know, those are extraordinary numbers. And in the rematch, though one in which we are not sure if Errol Spence could even do anything against Terence Crawford after that dominant performance, I would say that even in the rematch, I would like to see. I think Errol's reflexes are going to be faster. So let me explain to you guys what happened with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford a little bit, just to kind of round it off so you guys will understand. So Errol's a guy, right? He's southpaw. So when he throws his jab, what he usually does is he snaps back out of the way of return fire. He snaps back and he rides his head rocks this way and he rides the punches as he's snapping out. So he comes in with a shot and he rides out of it, right? He snaps out of it. He swivels and snaps out of it. So when people say Errol doesn't move his head, that's not true. He does move his head, all right? But he fights behind a two guard. He fights behind a hard guard. So Errol wasn't able to snap back out of shots. He was getting caught with shots in between. Now, yes, Terence was timing him, no doubt about it. Errol couldn't find his timing because he couldn't get the jab in. But at the same time, it is Errol's reflexes and his movement to get out of the way of punches was completely slowed down. And then after the first knockdown, he really started to slow down even more because, of course, when you get hit like that, it saps some of your energy. So Errol wasn't, like Errol said, his timing was off. Yes, there were things Terence Crawford was absolutely doing to assist in that because Errol couldn't find his range. So it was a lot of stuff, though, physically I saw in Errol that showed me that Errol wasn't, as people said, Errol didn't look like Errol. Now, that doesn't take from what Terence Crawford, like I said before, I think Terence Crawford would have still beaten him. Might have even still stopped him. We don't know. The jury's still out on that if he was full-fledged. He was getting caught crisp with certain shots. You would expect him to make adjustments to that. He did not really make significant adjustments. He did try to make adjustments, but it wasn't significant. And he explained, Errol said his timing was off, I guess because he was rusty, and also his reaction time was off, right? He was slow reacting to the punches. This is what his coach even said. So it's not that Errol doesn't have defense. He has defense. Well, let me explain Errol's defense. It's very simple. Errol rides and rolls punches when he's coming out. He also uses the two guard to block certain shots. When he doesn't have his hand up protecting himself, he tries to ride with the shot. He also uses the jab to keep spacing, to keep away from his opponent. He dips and rolls and rides punches and then keeps his two guard up. So that's basically Errol right there. That's his defense. His defense is his distancing. It's also his footwork where he places himself so he's off to an angle of his opponent. He wasn't able to do that against Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford was taking away certain angles, circling a certain direction, as well as Terence Crawford was also taking a little step back off an angle to make sure that Errol would fall short. When Errol got to the inside, he couldn't do any work because Terence Crawford was tying him up. So there was all these little things that was going on in the fight, and then Errol got too eager and too greedy and started reaching. And that's when all hell broke loose. And now he's trying to come straight down the center and bully Terence Crawford, and it didn't work. So with this fight, patience was important for Errol. His timing, he had to get the jab in. He hadn't gotten the jab in. He got it in once or twice, but not really. Terence Crawford's reach is a significant factor that was in this fight. Terence Crawford has a 2-inch reach on Errol, and that was a big factor in this fight. Even though Terence Crawford parried certain shots, and when you parry a shot off, it throws your opponent off balance, and he was able to like counter Errol and stuff like that. That wasn't so as significant as Errol misjudging the distance that Terence Crawford is, because Terence Crawford has such long arms. He can catch you with a jab, and you think you're out of range. You think you snap back out of range, and Crawford will catch you with a jab still. Now, some people were saying that Crawford was stepping in with a shotgun jab and hitting Errol, but it wasn't that. It was that Terence is popping the jab in between Errol's shots, and then because Terence has that long reach, even when Errol's snapping back on the jab, he's still getting caught with it. You need to snap back off a swivel or snap back off center line. But then again, the angle at which Terence Crawford was angling himself, when Errol thought he was snapping back outside of the line, he was actually snapping back into the shot. So it was all of these little things that you guys have to understand about angles and stuff. Crawford was able to take away Errol's angles. You know, Errol usually would come off an angle, but usually against an opponent that's stationary, he frees the opponent, or the opponent would be stepping in a certain direction, and therefore he could cut the angle on him. In this case, he couldn't cut the angle that he wanted to because Terence Crawford was circling a certain direction. So it was all these little tricks and stuff that Errol couldn't go weak side. Terence Crawford ended up being weak side to Errol, and he would be able to pot shot him, hit him with the shots that he wanted to hit him with. And Errol would be the one out of position. And Errol, because Errol's timing was off, he couldn't even, his reflexes wasn't quick enough to get out of the way of the shots too, or to snap back enough to take some of the steam off the shot. So it was all of these little things that was going on in the fight. And then Terence already was the quicker fighter of the two. So it was a upward battle for Errol. Okay. So my internet is really playing up his butt. Yeah, but he could hit you from way outside. So the internet just kind of me there. I'm sorry about that. Apologies. So there was all of those different factors that you have to deal with when you're dealing with Terence Crawford. And we all know he's tricky when it comes to distance and range and, you know, how he moves in the ring. He moves at certain angles. So he gets himself in position to deal with what you're doing. And because he's working behind his defense, you know, he has enough time to set up what he wants to set up, to do what he wants to do, because his defense is very tight. You know, in this fight, his defense was very tight. So that's what you were looking at. On the inside, he was stepping around Errol, turning him, and then catching him in combinations, walking him into combinations and stuff like that. So, you know, Crawford, I think, should win the second fight. Whatever adjustments he needs to do, he should win the second fight. But Errol will have to bear in mind all of those factors that we just said when he's dealing with Crawford, so he can cut the right angles. He has to be more patient. He can't just go in there and try and work. He has to be a little bit more patient when he's attacking Crawford. And then Crawford does protect his body pretty well. So if Errol's trying to go to the body, you know, with a body attack, he has to try and find Crawford, or he has to actually set traps for Crawford so Crawford would actually be throwing while he's throwing body shots. That's the way you have to pick Crawford. You have to pick Crawford apart as Crawford's picking you apart. So I don't know if Errol could do all of those things, but definitely a rematch will be on the cards, and they'll be able to make some more money with each other. So that's what that is about. But when I talk about Terence Crawford, the guy is what he is. He really is that dude, and he proved it against Errol Spence. He really is that dude, you know. So when we talk about, is he better than Floyd Mayweather, that's a really fitting question to ask. You know, as I said before, boxing as a sport evolves. The thing with Crawford that makes him so even more interesting is the angles he can cut because he can switch it. So even when you look at when he hit Errol Spence with that right uppercut that put him down, he caught him. He was in the orthodox stance against the ropes. Now, it really is a shot which a fighter in the orthodox stance would catch you with the right uppercut right here, right? So if I'm in the orthodox stance, I can catch you right here because my lead foot is my left foot, right? So what Terence did is he went from the southpaw stance, which is this stance right here, right? He was blocking, and he shifted back this way, and then he ripped the uppercut. I think he kind of looped it kind of way. And he caught Errol coming in. And that's the thing about Crawford. You know, he's got that extra wrinkle in his game. And even against Errol Spence, the way how he handled Errol Spence, how he, you know, used distance control. So he was sliding back half a step off an angle. Sorry about that. Again, that's my internet. Internet's acting up like an asshole. But yeah, he used his forearm to frame to keep Crawford off of him. You saw that. He also used it to space out to get the shots, the body shots. So he was actually framing, not Crawford, but he was framing Spence on the inside. And he was using that same stance, that shell on the inside. He was up against Errol, like Floyd Mayweather styling, with the shoulder up in on him, and he was ripping shots, and he would do it in the southpaw and the orthodox stance. And yeah, he was mostly fighting southpaw from the get-go against Spence, but he was also shifting from orthodox to southpaw when the situation allowed for it to play certain shots on the inside, right? So, it was just a lot of stuff he brings to the table. And because he can shift stance, it kind of adds to it. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, it's all about really the lead hand. We don't care if it's orthodox or southpaw. I get you, but the angles are slightly different. It doesn't make a difference, but what I'm saying is that, he's got that extra wrinkle. He has these extra angles that he can catch you with while he's staying behind his defense, because he's watching you all the time. He's just like Floyd. He's watching all your movements all the time. He's observing all your movements all the time behind his defense. And that's how he's able to counter. He was able to counter. And what is his defense? So let me explain a couple of things about Terence Crawford. His defense involves a number of different factors. So there's the framing to keep your opponent from countering you. There's the distance control with the feet, right? There's the direction in which you circle. There's the clinching and the turning. There's the timing issue where you throw shots in between the opponent's shots, you slip shots, you defensively be responsible while you're doing that in your offense. There's the, when you looked at him, there's the clinch mode, meaning on the inside, besides framing, you can also clinch your opponent, one arm, whatever, and work with the other arm. The opponent, if he clinches you, you angle your body a certain way. Then he was also fighting, Spence in certain stances. So he was using different stances. He was also testing out different things to see what Spence's response will be. And then you have defense is also part of defense, is setting traps, making a guy walk into stuff, making a guy throw stuff, So you bait him in, and then you do your thing. So it was a lot of that stuff that was going on, and that's all part of defense. Okay, defense is not just a stance or a shell or whatever. It's also getting your opponent to do certain things that now you can be able to, you're dictating. This is what I mean by dictating the fight. This is what I mean by controlling the fight. You're getting your opponent to do certain things. You bait him into doing certain things. You're setting him up for certain things, right? So that's what Terence Crawford was doing, and that's why his defense was on point. That's why he seemed to always be a step ahead of Errol. That's why it seems as though he had time when Errol was throwing his shots. He closed up his defense, but he's watching him all the time. He's watching everything he's doing. You see? And that's why you can see the holes in your opponent defense, because you're watching them while your defense stays tight. You see what I'm saying? You're dialed in on them. So that's why Crawford seemed to have enough time to do this and that. And it wasn't so much speed, it was more timing, right? And so he has great timing as well, and that's part of defense. Timing is not just about throwing offense. It's not just about throwing shots. It's also about getting out of the way of shots. It's all about creating a certain amount of distance from your opponent. When your opponent advances, you move back. You keep a certain spacing. You keep a certain pivot work. You keep a certain set of angles. And that's also another thing that's part of defense. Because by keeping a certain range, which is appropriate to you, but uncomfortable to your opponent, you take away your opponent's best attributes. This is how Terence Crawford was able to disable to some degree Errol Spence's jab or make it less effective. All right. And he did it both on the outside, and then he came on the inside when Errol Spence's power started to diminish and his strength, and he started to work him on the inside. So these are the things that Crawford kind of did in the fight. When Floyd fought Diego Corrales, now Floyd fought so many great fighters that, the list goes on and on and on. Some that were not great. They're not Hall of Famers, but they were terrific fighters. So we have, sorry about that again. My internet just went. I'm going to stop at 30 minutes, which means I've got 3 more minutes, okay, with you guys, and I'm going to get out of here. But, a lot of great fighters Floyd fought. Chop Corley, Diego Corrales, Jesus Chavez, Gennaro Hernandez, Zab Judah, Carlos Baldomir. These are all world champions. Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton. Who else we got? Andre Berto was a little bit past it. So again, when you fight the guys is another thing that we have to look at, But what I'm saying is that he fought a lot of good and great fighters, a lot of world champions, and that's a lot to be said about Floyd. So that's why I said, to say that Terence is better than Floyd definitively right now, off of that performance, was a tremendous performance. It was a virtuoso performance. I would say it was a better performance than even Floyd versus Castillo, even though Floyd dropped Corrales, even though he dropped Corrales, I believe it was 5 times. Terence Crawford dropped Errol Spence 4 times, but I thought, he was much more brutal against Errol Spence. Of course, Floyd was a puncher at 130. So, great performance. Diego Krause was a pound-for-pound fighter at the time, too, but it wasn't a top 5 pound-for-pound. Errol Spence is a much more dominant pound-for-pound fighter, bigger guy and all of that. So this was a tremendous performance. All right, so yeah, we're a little frustrated about what's happening, but there's nothing I can do about it. My service provider is playing their ass, and they're not doing a good job with allowing things to stream properly. So I'm very sorry about this. I apologize for the unprofessionalism of my service provider. But back to what I was saying. Terence Crawford, has done tremendous stuff. He's definitely a one-of-a-kind boxer. You expect a boxer coming off of great boxers before them, if they are great boxers, they're going to add more wrinkles to their game because they had all the former boxers to build off of, right? So for me to say that Terence Crawford is a better or greater fighter than Floyd Mayweather, in 5-10 years time, wouldn't be surprising to me. Right, when we got a couple others that have potential, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Tank Davis, and then we have a bunch of guys out there that are making their name in boxing right now. So it's not surprising. Like I said, boxing as a sport evolves. This is not an unfair statement to say. Is it a premature statement? It obviously is a premature statement because his career is not over. You really compare careers after they're over. But nonetheless, at this point in time, in certain aspects, Terence Crawford is a better fighter than Floyd Mayweather. In other aspects, he's not. So you have to look at what it is you're really looking at if you're going to collate everything together. And you have to think about those things before you even say it. But this is the opinion I have. I don't know about you guys. You can share your opinions when you feel like it. Until then, I am what you need. We're going to finish this in 28 minutes, 40-something seconds. I'm what you need. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to click, like, share, even donate to my channel. I think in the description right now, you can find a place, PayPal, to donate to my channel. I'll catch you guys later. What you need. Out.